Good morning, everybody. It's 8:30, so we want to start promptly this morning. A reminder for everybody, some key rules of engagement. Please, if you have any questions, use the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom meeting. If you are joining us on Facebook Live, please type your questions there and they will be able to pass those questions to us. There will be a link to the presentation sent to everybody and posted on Facebook Live. And we're really trying to encourage, civil and respectful engagement of ideas. So please feel free to jump in, ask us any questions, but let's be respectful, of others' opinions. So with that, I will share my screen and start the presentation.
Katia, I just wanted to remind you to introduce yourself, our esteemed board president. There's some folks on the call who may not know who you are and what your position is in the downtown.
My apologies, sometimes you start this meeting and you start running. So my name is Katia McClain. I am the president of the board of directors for the San Jose Downtown Association, being involved with the organization for almost 3 years now. An architect and urban planner by training, but going to downtown, to work every day. Maybe not these days, but almost every day, going to work there. Scott, do you want to do a brief introduction of yourself since?
Scott Knies, I'm the executive director of the San Jose Downtown Association, and Katia is too modest. She's the managing principal of one of our top architecture firms downtown, Steinberg Hart, and she just told us this morning that they're moving their offices this weekend from City View Plaza. A number of businesses, some of you on the call were located there and are moving out of the way for the J. Paul development. And Steinberg Hart is not moving very far. You're moving a couple blocks over to River Park Towers this weekend. So we're so fortunate to have Katia as our volunteer board president, who has been leading the organization in 2020 during some tumultuous events that she didn't sign on for when she first was elected to this position. But we're very fortunate to have her leadership.
Well, Scott's correct. About 4 or 5 months ago, I don't think that any of us knew that we were going to be in this situation. However, early this year, the San Jose Downtown Association started thinking, that we needed to work on a specific plan, and what were going to be the actions for the next couple of years. So when the pandemic hit and George Floyd's murder happened, we really thought that it was truly the right time to look at a stabilization plan. So we want to thank the Knight Foundation for granting us the opportunity to see to the future. And thank you as well for Progressive Urban Management Associates, PUMA. You will see their logo at the bottom of the screen because they help us facilitate some of the conversations with us, our stakeholders and the public at large, and also come up with some recommendations, that you will see, throughout the presentation. And we wanted to start reminding everybody that the San Jose Downtown Association is only a part of a large family of organizations. The San Jose Downtown Foundation, the PBID, the Business Improvement District, and the Downtown Community Development Corporation are also part of the San Jose Downtown Association, and you will see different recommendations that may impact each one of those organizations and the San Jose Downtown Association at large. So we'll start with some of the bottom line conclusions and work our way to how do we get here. The pandemic required San Jose Downtown Association to update our business model. We wanted to focus on clean and safety and safe services, small business support, and a place, for enhancement, and equity. And there were some key programming considerations: the emphasis on the upcoming PBID renewal, leading our efforts to nurture and curate storefront economy, modernize marketing and promotions in order to welcome and make a San Jose downtown for all, move from a festival producer to an event facilitator, and we will talk a little bit more throughout the presentation, and as a session plan for our executive leadership. It has, Scott has told us that he wants to retire, and we need to start planning of how that retirement is going to look for the San Jose Downtown Association when he's not with us. But how did we get there? As part of the process, we actually did a series of interviews with property owners, business owners, policymakers, staff, the board, the PBID board, and we did a large online public survey, almost 1,250 responses. And these really resulted in the draft stabilization plan report, where we had some near-term and long-term framework and implications. We want to start with a little bit of a summary of the survey. Not surprising, but in the near term, really important, the cleaning and safety efforts, support for the small businesses and the entrepreneurial spirit that we have with some of our small businesses downtown, and social equity efforts to ensure downtown is welcoming for all. In the long term, cleaning and safety is still becoming the top priority, and social and equity efforts becoming the second priority, and the small businesses support is third. So there's a really nice correlation between the near-term and the long-term efforts and what the online responders would want to see the downtown moving forward to. I wanted to show the rest of the answers on the online survey, where events and activations follow next. Capital improvements, greening and beautifications, but again, cleaning and safety efforts being the top response. And we wanted to give a brief snapshot on who participated in this survey. I think we have been talking about how we can be more equitable and more diversity. So in terms of ethnicity, we will continue to look forward to working on those numbers in order to make sure that we have more representation from our underrepresented communities. Age, it's interesting that it's in that middle range, from 35 to 49, but there's a lot of interest from others that live outside of downtown, but come to our downtown to dine, play, or work. There were some common themes and some near implications. Let's think boldly. If we need to take risk, this is the right time to take risk, and make sure that we look forward to the future. But let's maintain focus on the clean and safe services, since that is a priority for most of the people that are coming downtown. Marketing and promotions are critical, and they need to be redirected to our local communities and to reflect what the local communities look like. And we need more focus on small business support and storefront activation. Additional near-term opportunities is rethinking downtown streets and making the streets public spaces that people feel better to be and coming to, activate and fill vacant real estate. This is a chance for strengthening and refreshing our offerings, and support companies that are operating during the COVID crisis. And moving to some key implications. The San Jose region is one of the most resilient communities in the world. So social equity and affordability issues are increasingly important in order for us to move forward. So the PBID and groundworks are core strengths of the San Jose Downtown Association. We don't want to lose that focus, and they need to serve as anchors to managing the public realm. The San Jose Downtown Association needs to be a leader in nurturing the storefront economy, and also including efforts to bolster the arts. And marketing and promotions and events should be repositioned to focus the efforts on a smaller scale and reach the diverse San Jose population market. And we need to regain some momentum and that we had before the pandemic, but we are anticipating a major loss in public funding, and that's just a reality. So how can we recover for that? We need to start thinking about being a problem solver and implementer, and support and lead the change in equity and sustainability. And We know there's a need to update our business model and realign the staff and the board to match with this realignment.
Thank you, Katia. I'm going to take us through the final 10 slides before we get into the Q&A. So you heard a little bit about what kind of the broad areas that we're going to focus on. Now we're going to look a little bit more at some of the specific strategies and tactics, both in the near term and the longer term, as we all are kind of struggling with how do we get through both the health and the economic pandemics that have gripped our community. So the main priority you saw very, very clearly, strong alignment from everybody, is we've got to feel comfortable to come back downtown. Downtown needs to be disinfected. It needs to be clean. It needs to be safe. That means our beloved Groundworks program is more important than ever. We also heard very, very strongly from our survey respondents that there is concern about with less people in the offices, less people on the streets. It looks like there's more homeless, more encampments, and what are we going to be doing about our behavioral health issues, and what can the Downtown Association do? You know, we're not a social service agency, but you know, our Groundworks crew, we're on the street 7 days a week. You know, we're kind of the line of first defense for our members, and certainly a lot of the cleaning that we've been doing over the last several years is also related to our homeless population downtown. Of course, we have a very successful work experience program where we've been able to get some of our formerly homeless individuals fantastic jobs at Groundworks. We want to continue that and expand that. And we also want to think about how our streetlight projects and our beautification projects can be closely coordinated with improving. You're going to see coming up this new environment business center that we have. Next slide, please, Katia. You also heard that the storefront economy is going to be just brutalized here coming out of the pandemic. We've already seen many stores close, many small businesses shutter, and you know, we're just in triage mode right now, trying to save one business at a time. An idea that emerged, you know, once it's safe to do so, is to get an on-the-ground business support center. You know, kind of more boots on the ground. So we're like coming to the businesses instead of the businesses coming to us. So difficult right now with the shelter in place, and we're not just having the face-to-face interactions like we were able to prior. So we really like this idea of investing in a storefront downtown and putting some services in concert with the city and our other partners at SVO and other organizations that are very interested in businesses coming back. We also have one of our C3s, the Downtown Community Development Corporation. We see some potential there to create an investment fund that is specifically tailored to raising money for small businesses and disadvantaged businesses, and helping these enterprises take root in the downtown. We think there's going to be a lot of opportunity, a lot of vacancies that we can try to get more businesses back into. Our board very strongly wants us to create a local preference policy where you know, the city, public agencies, as well as our big private sector employers, are more intentional about buying locally and keeping the money in the downtown. And then, of course, even though most of the fall semester at San Jose State is distant learning, kind of an evergreen issue for us is our town and gown relations, and how do we incorporate the wonderful San Jose State environment more into the downtown, and really make that urban university part of our core. Next slide. Hey, there's always more we can do to get the word out to members. This is, I think it was kind of subtle. Katia went over it pretty quick, but I think this is one of the biggest changes in the plan. We're going to be doing we've already launched we're open downtown, the recovery marketing promotions are already underway. But I think one of the big reveals in this plan is the association moving away from being a major festival producer. Obviously, one of the first moves we did, I don't think it's that obvious. We just found out that one of our major sponsors didn't know that we had canceled the ice rink for this year. So maybe it isn't that obvious, but most of you know that one of the first things we did was shut down Music in the Park for this summer and cancel the ice rink. And none of us know when concerts and major festivals are coming back. And that this plan has really challenged us to look at our role and are we moving into more of a catalyst, doing smaller events and activations and helping other producers. We'd love to see these events happen. Does the Downtown Association need to be the entity that's actually the producer of that? Our other C3, the Downtown Foundation, is very well known for its extraordinary Downtown Doors student art program, but we believe that there's more that the foundation can do, especially around helping our arts organizations downtown. And then the Downtown Association kind of draws the short straw all the time. We aren't there yet with autonomous vehicles, especially with our suburban population. A lot of people are still in cars. We still need parking. We still need to get the word out about parking. And we're really delighted with the new 90-minute free parking program, getting rid of the validation, simplifying it. We think that's a wonderful new message that has emerged in one of the few really positive messages that emerged in the middle of this pandemic. Next slide. So we're looking at grouping an environment and experience and really kind of focusing the organization internally. Next slide. Environment is centered around our Clean and Safe program and groundworks, which we already talked about. Greening and beautification, that's really our street life program. You may know that the flowering baskets, the planters, the decorative lighting, many of the mural programs, some of the dog parks, these are all part of the PBID program as well. The Public Space Conservancy is a new idea that we have, and it's accelerating. We closed San Pedro Street on July 22nd. And so how do the conversion of public streets, sidewalks, plazas, how does that work for Park Avenue or for the number of streets that Google has proposed closing over in downtown West? How is that managed for accessibility to all? How do you get into access grease traps and pick up trash, and how do you have rules of conduct on these streets? And so we're really interested in, we think that this is going to be something that is going, you're going to see more of it as we kind of turn public spaces and kind of open them up as parks and plazas. Next slide. The experience realm is really focused on, got a drive-by by the cat there, small business and our events, our marketing events, communications program. This is where we're really talking about the people and how we're experiencing this environment that we're building and creating in downtown. I think for a lot of folks, they see this as the bread and butter of the Downtown Association is kind of creating that experience downtown. Because the pandemic has put pressure on revenue sources, we are trying to be realistic, as you would expect a business organization to be, and thinking about where future funding can come for these activities. Next slide. The value proposition that we offer has to be grounded in values. And these three principles are something that we've been focused on for a long time, but now we're putting it out there in this plan so that everybody understands that equity and inclusion, and I imagine we're going to get some questions on this here in a few minutes about what that means, and I think we're happy to go a little deeper on that. The innovation, boy, if there was ever a time to throw some stuff against the wall and see if it sticks, it's right now in the pandemic. You're seeing that a little bit with the alfresco, and we're really trying to kind of switch the mindset, especially with our public sector partners on, hey, that's pre-COVID thinking. We've got to try new things right now more than ever. Advocacy and action, the association has been called over the years Downtown's Department of Implementation. We're not a planning organization. We're not a think tank. We do things. We say what we're going to do and then we do it. This plan is telling you what we're going to do, and that's why we're here today, to share it with the public over and over again, so you can hold us accountable that we're going to do the things that we're saying here in this plan. Next slide. One of the key things that we're going to do, beginning next month, Chloe is our operations manager at the Downtown Association, and she has a RFP out for the PBID renewal. We're expecting at the end of the month to get our proposals there, and then we're going to be selecting a consultant and moving into almost a year-long work about how we're going to re-envision the next 10 years of the PBID. This is going to really be an opportunity for us to think about how we define downtown. And I meant, sorry, Katia, I meant to change this, this slide. We're not just looking at boundary expansion to the west. Obviously, that's where Google is, Dearborn Station. There's a lot of attention out there, but I can tell you that property owners on all sides of downtown have been asking for groundwork services. There's been talk of jumping 280 and going into the Soda District, kind of a linear district down First Street, Monterey Highway towards, Camino Brewing down there. We've got requests on East Santa Clara Street and to go past City Hall. We also have all of the housing developments north of Julian Street have been asking for groundwork services for the last 12 years. So we're going to be looking at all of those boundaries. We're going to be including a lot of public meetings and a lot of outreach about how we're going to expand, what services we're going to be bringing to these new areas. And that's really something I know that we're excited about and looking forward to. Next slide. And this is the last slide, by the way. Good news. I'm sure for all of you who've been doing way too many Zoom meetings like us, I would say, obviously, the organization is going through some big changes too to be able to accommodate this. And this stabilization effort is also a succession plan. The founding executive director, yours truly, is going to be leaving, not retiring, Katia, but it's a perfect timing, as you can see in the plan. The full plan is on our website, and it's got a little bit more detail on the timing. But essentially, we're going to be electing a new mayor, a new downtown council person in 2022, and this is the ideal transition for new leadership at the Downtown Association to break in the next municipal administration and take off, from there for the next chapter in downtown's journey. And that, Katia, I think we're ready to start entertaining questions, and I think you're going to bring in a couple ringers to help us answer some of the hard questions we're going to get.
Yes, I would like to have Chloe and Nate join us. Thank you. They are part of the staff and integral to some of the priorities that we have identified in the stabilization plan, and hopefully you're here to help us with answering some questions. So let me see. How can we convince the city to permanently close streets, and the effort that we're doing with alfresco that to last a little bit longer than just, the summer, and winter is coming. Somebody posted, put that in capital letters. So with winter, what are those things that we can do first, to encourage more people to visit downtown, for pedestrians to feel safe, and, have those streets permanently closed. Scott, maybe you want to start, and Nate, if you want to compliment from the efforts that you've been doing with the small businesses, I think that would be great.
Nate, this is right up your alley.
Sure, I have a joke ready. Hopefully our alfresco program works better than the ending of Game of Thrones. We're aware that winter is coming. So I want to take the first part first, how to convince the city to permanently close streets, I think, is you do a pilot program, which is what we're doing. We did it last summer on San Pedro, the 8 weekend evenings, I believe it was. We're doing it now. Now is a little bit more intensive, as Scott alluded to earlier. There have been some management issues. Though it seemed slow from the small business perspective, it actually happened pretty quickly, considering a government timeline. I do think some key city staff members, including the downtown manager, Blage Zalalic, deserve a lot of credit for rolling out a program that was essentially free to the end user, the business, and it's submitting about 10 questions of basic information and posting some insurance. It's a pretty good program, and we'd love to see more people participate in it. And I think that the immense amount of emphasis, especially in the media, about alfresco has been about closing streets. It's hard to close a street, and it creates a lot of secondary, tertiary issues. Almost any business can put their operations outside right now by filling out a quick questionnaire and posting some insurance. So we'd love to see more people utilizing the parks, plazas, sidewalks in front of their stores and adjacent to their stores. And I can literally help you do that in an afternoon. And I'm very ready, willing, and able to do that for any downtown business. If you want to talk about it, I'm happy to do kind of a one-on-one consult on that. So I think the question about winterization is extremely important. We can't change the weather, but we can change how we respond to it. Generally speaking, we have fairly mild weather here, but we're also sort of cold-blooded due to that, Californians, and we don't like to sit outside when it's even a little bit cold. However, we are engaging in kind of a pro bono design process with the architecture firm Gensler to discuss some cost-effective plans for possibly winterizing some of the outdoor seating areas. The meetings about that are ongoing. We're taking in key stakeholder feedback from local restaurateurs in particular, but we understand that the challenges ahead of us are looming. And actually yesterday was the first kind of crisp autumn seeming day. So it's not soon, it's now. I'll leave it there for now.
I think that there may be another question coming up, and Chloe, there may be a good opportunity for you to jump in and say, how can we do the alfresco programs like alfresco and closing the streets while still maintaining a clean and safe environment, and we have a homeless population, downtown. So how can we balance both? What can we do in order to maintain, and help our homeless population while still doing, all the programs that we want to do?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is communication. We're really fortunate to have Groundworks out there every single day. And so our staff are able to communicate out to our partners that we need, like PATH or other service providers in the downtown core. And so that allows us to bring services to those in need. It's also about reporting the issues that have cleanliness in mind. I urge you all to download our Groundworks Everywhere app. It makes it easy. You can geolocate whatever you need taken care of, take a picture if need be, and send that over. And so that really assists our team to make sure that the space is clean and safe for everyone. We work 7 days a week, as I said. The second someone finishes pressure washing, someone will spill a coffee. And so we need you to tell us when that takes place. So really, communication is our biggest asset and can really help folks maintain a clean and safe space downtown.
Scott, Chloe talked about communication, being key. And I think that it is in our stabilization plan to have those communications to make sure that San Jose downtown is open to all. Can you talk a little bit about how we are changing marketing and communications in order to encourage everybody downtown, everybody outside of downtown to come downtown and feel that they belong?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I think was remarkable in the surveys, besides getting 1,254 responses, was the real strong alignment that this question about communication is really a question about equity, and how do we get the word out to everyone, and how do we put it in our plan so that it isn't just a buzzword, that it's a fundamental element of all of our work. And we've always said that downtown is the neighborhood for all of San Jose, and that makes sense. All the major institutions are located here. City Hall, San Jose State, the courts, the main library, the convention center, the Shark Tank. So this plan has to prioritize that downtown is more affordable, just, and accessible. And it means that we're going to be more intentional and more actionable than ever before on this work. And you're going to see it in obvious ways: the translating our communications, the diversity of our board, the selection of artists and vendors, but also in subtle ways. Does the placement of alfresco areas benefit one district more than another downtown? Do our seniors have enough access to the farmers market? What words are we using in our ads and our wayfinding? What are we doing with our own data? If you go into the crosstabs of the survey that we just posted, you'll see that we need to do a lot more work representing our Asian demographic downtown. And then, how does it affect the ordinances and the policies in our advocacy work? We'll be supporting a fee for commercial development on Tuesday, and talking about how this is going to benefit affordable housing. I can tell you, whatever level we come in on the fee, our friends in the affordable housing area are going to say it needs to be higher. But this balance in our policies needs to be reflected as well. So I think when you're looking at the work that Chloe and Nate are doing, there's always another business that needs to help in opening. Just like Chloe said, there's always another street that needs to be clean. There's always more word to get out in our communication. So we never get to plant a flag and say we're done. There's always, we have accomplishments along the way, but building, the making of a city, you never arrive. It is the proverbial journey that we're on. And I just want to say I'm really proud of my staff, of Chloe, Nate, and everybody at the Downtown Association that has worked these last 6 months above and beyond the call of duty, thinking about their community service here. It's been super challenging, but it's also been incredibly rewarding and invigorating as well.
I echo that. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Chloe, and thank you for the entire staff. There's one question that I like. Somebody is asking, how can we participate? What is the best way to give input? So I would say this is the right time actually to do more on our civic duty. So first, reach out to us in social media, reach out to us directly through our website. But Nate is always talking to small business owners, so Nate is completely accessible. Chloe, as part of the PBID, she's always reaching out and seeking that input. But if you're interested, we are looking for that diverse participation in our board. And in order for our San Jose downtown to be more diverse and more equitable, we need those voices to be represented. So if you're interested, please, reach out to Scott or myself in order to participate, as part of the board, because we are looking for those diverse voices that later on will make the process and the implementation by, as a result, being more inclusive. There's another question about boundary expansions, and probably, Scott, that may be for you. The boundary expansions will work and make a lot of sense, but only if we are able to support and provide the services to those expanded areas. So what is the strategy to not just say, okay, we're expanding, but also service, those expanded areas?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to ask Chloe to weigh in here too. It's actually a fairly simple formula for us. So do you have an area that wants services? We know, for instance, on East Santa Clara Street, there's an interest to expand services. So what are those services that they want? Do you want cleaning? Do you want security? Do you want beautification? Do you want small business services? Do you want additional marketing? Cost those out. Take that number, divide it into the area of property there, because most of the property owners who are paying these assessments for these services, they want to know how much. They want to know what the value is, and if it makes sense to them, if they think it's going to help them, lease their building, rent their apartments, improve their property values, they're going to continue to want to pay for these services. And I know that Chloe is very intent on making sure that wherever we go, we can actually provide the services we say we are.
Yeah, that's one of the things we've been talking a lot about in regards to the PBID renewal and expansion. And we know that if we add in any new neighborhoods, not only does that mean that we need additional groundwork staff, but we need equipment, and we might need a new location to deploy the staff and the equipment from. We likely will have greater needs on our SJDA staff as well to monitor and execute these programs. So we're very aware of the needs that we will have, and that will be a part of the renewal process. And we will be looking for that feedback from the folks within our existing boundaries and in those expansion areas to make sure that we're providing the services that folks need and want to be able to do business downtown.
I'd also just like to briefly acknowledge that that question came from our partner at the city, the small business ally, Juan Borelli. Juan, if you're listening, thank you so much for everything that you do. I can't imagine the city's small business ecosystem without you. So thank you for participating this morning and just for your tireless devotion to our city's small businesses.
Ditto.
Additional shout out for Juan. He's also a board member of the San Jose Downtown Foundation and also a tireless supporter of Downtown Doors. Go Juan. And
since we're talking about involvement, the question just came up about how is Council Member Perales, our representatives for downtown, involved in these downtown improvements?
Well, I think our board president should answer that. You were just on a call with the council member on Friday.
He not only participated, him and his staff not only participated in on the survey, but they have been integral in the development of the process, and we really go hand in hand in the implementation. And that's where probably the next effort is going to be, how we are going to implement what we say that we will be doing, and how we can involve not just our council member, but other people at the city in order to help us achieve the results. There was another question about residents and how we're welcoming new residents downtown, and how the implementation plan may help new residents. So I want to tie both of them. Scott, I know you were going to mention something about the involvement, of others in the implementation of these strategies. So maybe you could tie it back as well to the new residents that are coming downtown.
I wanted to kind of double back first to the question about how do we work with the downtown council office. And I think when the pandemic hit, we had a plethora of plan. We did our own plan for downtown. Raul, council member Perales, did the D3, District 3, this is the council district he represents, Greater Downtown San Jose Task Force. And I see a number of folks participating in this call that also participated in that task force. And then, the mayor and the leadership group did a larger Silicon Valley economic recovery roundtable, which just issued its report, by the way, on Wednesday. And so all of these efforts are out there, well-intentioned and focused on helping us recover as a community. I think what stands out with our plan is, and this is, of course, is the legacy of this organization, is we're the Downtown Association. We're focused on downtown. So we're not the whole district. We're not the whole city. We're not the whole Silicon Valley. We're focused just on the downtown core, and we don't really stray from that. And so our recommendations are, downtown centric, and we're proud of that. However, I do want to point out how much overlap there was between Councilman Perales's planning efforts and then also the larger recovery task force. Their big business, recommendation was, rebuilding main streets. Not that we are Castro Street in Mountain View or Santa Cruz Avenue in Los Gatos or University Avenue in Palo Alto. We are the only real urban core in Silicon Valley, but it was a nod to where we're at. And the number one tactic was form BIDs and PBIDs, which we already have in the downtown. So in many ways, we are on the vanguard. We realize how important it is for downtown to be a leader in the recovery efforts. And so we feel the pressure, and we certainly want, and we certainly consider that residents are part of it. We have residents that own condominiums are our members. They are assessed in the PBID. All the apartment owners are assessed. What we're seeing is a change in demographic in the downtown with, not enough yet new residential coming in, but it's going to give downtown more importance over time because downtown will have more voters. Right now, you look at District 3, it's spread out. It's mostly one molecule thick. And this is, of course, an Achilles heel of the downtown. And we've seen it more than ever, during this pandemic with all the office workers gone, all the convention centers gone, people in the hotels aren't there. And we have to rely on the residents. And boy, do we need more of them in the downtown. So we do want to build more housing. And we know from our surveys, because I can tell you, the folks who are living down here, who are with us, 7 days a week, they're the ones that we get most of the feedback with. I think Chloe's nodding her head there. So we hear from you. We need to hear from you. We think we're responsive. We understand how much you love Groundworks. And we see the alignment with where you want us to go and in the survey and in the services that we're providing.
There are a couple of comments about involvement and, thanking some of the people that have been participating in this online survey, but actually wanting to participate more. So We still have a couple of more minutes, so I'll encourage you to please send us your questions via the Q&A, via Facebook. But if you're shy in order to ask a question right now, please reach out to us later, and please participate and join us in implementing these actions that we have outlined as part of the stabilization plan. There's one more question about the Public Space Conservancy. And I think that would be good, maybe Scott, if you want to talk a little bit more, you talk about it during the presentation, but how can we make sure in these efforts, that different developers are doing, how do we make sure that everybody is going to be able to participate somehow in some of these developments and enjoy them at the end?
We think our organization is uniquely positioned. You would think this would have been something that the redevelopment agency mother henned back in the day and would have stiff-armed everybody else from even discussing it. But it's been a while since we've had the resources in redevelopment around, and looking at where the city is concentrating and where their resources are at. We don't see anybody thinking about the spaces in between the developments. So we are concerned. Mostly our focus has been, and there's a little bit of this thinking going on with our partners at Spur about how do you connect the West, downtown West, and these 250 acres that are going under a rezoning and environmental work and a tremendous densification with the downtown core, because we have some barriers there. We have Los Gatos Creek, we have Guadalupe River, we have Highway 87. So how do you seamlessly get back and forth between the core and the West? Frankly, that challenge needs to be thought of now, but we've now kind of looking a little bit more interior to the core. How do we connect San Pedro Square to the historic district to SOFA? How do we connect the J. Paul developments with the urban catalyst and the urban community and the Adobe and the beautiful project we saw yesterday at our design development committee from Sobrato on Block 8? So we're seeing these proposals as individual projects, but we're not seeing the work being done by the city, connecting them with the streets. So we're very interested in this part of work. And again, I think the pandemic has just been an accelerator of this. There's a possibility we may not open San Pedro Street ever again. It got closed under these conditions, but how long have we been talking about, closing that street? What happens with Park Avenue? That's closed right now. It got closed earlier this week. If you haven't been downtown, the work is underway with 200 Park, and the demo work is being planned, on City View. So when that street opens, does that become a park? Does that an extension of Plaza Park? And who manages that? Does that become a quasi public-private space? You can look at the conditions of our public parks. Does PRNS, our department, are they capable of doing that? Is there a sharing that goes on? Where does the funding come from? And I know that the Guadalupe River Park Conservancy is very interested in, right now, the park is very troubled. I was just on my bike earlier this week on Guadalupe River through the middle of downtown, and let me tell you, it was not a pretty sight. It was very uncomfortable, and so we have a lot of work to do with our public spaces. We're not investing enough in them. There's not enough intellectual rigor. There's not enough commitment from the public sector, the private sector, the third sector to solve this. And it's a big concern. And we need to come together as a community to work harder on this issue.
There are a couple more questions about public space. One is, there's another sector of the population that are kids. And, are there any plans? Have there been any conversations about adding more spaces and activities for kids around downtown? And your favorite word, purpose, what do we think about the purpose and how can we make this happen? And I want to tie that one back to maybe small businesses and how can small businesses support, or be catalyst for creating more purpose that later on will help those small businesses that are around those purpose. So maybe I'll go first to Nate, and talk a little bit about, for those that don't know what a POPO is, a privately owned, publicly open spaces, and how do you see this evolving more in the city? And again, relating to small businesses, but also relating to some of the large tenants, that are downtown.
Sure. Great question. I don't know that I can fully encapsulate it at this moment, but I'll just say this. A lot of our thinking around this happens at our downtown design committee level, which is a group of local architects, designers, and concerned citizens who do, pardon me, architectural review, and we write letters about proposed developments. And the last one we did before we kind of went dormant was for the Fountain Alley building, which is a proposal from Urban Catalyst, the Opportunity Fund development firm, who's proposing a wide variety of different types of buildings for the downtown. And the Fountain Alley building has an awesome POPO, which I'm never going to get used to saying that. Thank you for defining it, which is a rooftop bar concept for the top of a 6-story, kind of nicely designed, historically integrated office building right along Fountain Alley at First. Longtime downtown residents may remember it as the Lido building. So that's a great example of something we pushed for a long time from a design sensibility. Let's use our rooftops. Let's use our beautiful weather. Let's act like a big city. I'm not going to get on my personal soapbox here, but I do feel like we have kind of an inferiority complex as a community, and that we need to let ourselves have nice things, and that we can start doing that with some of these kind of publicly owned, publicly accessible, privately owned spaces, especially utilizing rooftops and newly designed kind of forward-thinking architecture to help bring us into the future.
And during the stabilization plan, one of the items was about thinking boldly. So I think this is where we can start pushing more and say, there is a fourth facade that is the roof of some of these buildings that some of us look at, when you are in some of the high rises, and you look at a lot of them. So how can we start using those, that fourth facade, in order to make it more accessible for more people, rather than just seeing mechanical equipment, everywhere. Sorry, the architect on me had to say something about that fourth facade. But I want to take it back and maybe about the conversation about accessibility for all, and kids, seniors, different demographics. It goes related a little bit to diversity and equity. What are those things? If there's one thing that we could do, and maybe I'll put the 3 of you or the 4 of us on the spot, I'll be last. If there's one thing that we could do, what would you do in order to make downtown more accessible, to all?
Well, I'm not sure there's one thing I can tell you that we've been pushing for greater accessibility to the BART station. We wrote a letter, and we've been advocating that the downtown BART station, which is supposed to have 25,000 daily users, have a south of Santa Clara Street entrance to the subway. Right now, with the single tunnel design, they have both the portals to the station just on the north side of Santa Clara Street. And just given that some of our major traffic generators like San Jose State, the Convention Center, a number of these, big developments that we've been talking about are all on the south side of Santa Clara Street. I worry about our seniors and our children and everybody having to cross Santa Clara Street to get to BART when we want everything to be on Santa Clara Street. Every time I talk to the Department of Transportation, there's a new, there's rapid buses, there's bikes, there's scooters, there's everything under the sun. Everything has to be on Santa Clara Street because it's the only east-west street that goes all the way through the downtown. We have one street, and now we're going to force everybody to. So I think there's an example of trying to think about place in terms of the equity lens. And I could go on, I could pick both Nate and Chloe, every project that we're working on right now, I think is going through that sieve, and it's starting to change, the culture. So I'll let you guys weigh in on yours.
I think something that's really interesting about this current pandemic and the ensuing recession has been that it hasn't really affected the price of real estate quite yet. Every day it seems like there's a new article in the newspaper about, home prices not budging despite the fact of this huge increase in unemployment, et cetera, et cetera. And we for the most part, I think we are seeing that on the commercial storefront real estate market in downtown San Jose as well. So I think one way that we could make downtown more affordable would be to make downtown more affordable, which would be to lower asking rents in order to increase activation. And that's not something we can affect directly very often, though we are in touch with groups of property owners who we can possibly have conversations with about making kind of more tenant-friendly concessions as we move into more of the recovery phase. But that's more something that we're ruminating on than we're really acting on at the moment. And we kind of need to see where the market settles if and when we ever get out of this.
I'm going to answer a little bit more personally. I'm an apartment dweller with a 6-year-old. And so right now I'm thinking a lot about our green spaces and if they're active or passive, especially with the fires taking place right now. I think it's made it even more clear how important these outdoor spaces are to us, and making sure our downtown spaces are comfortable, they have something to offer for different demographics is really huge. And I hope that everyone's desire to be outside that we've seen during the pandemic and be a part of nature continues on beyond in our new normal, because that's a huge way to transform downtown through our parks.
Thank you, Chloe. And now then bring it back even a little bit farther back. And that is, I think in order for us to be more accessible, we need to partner and leverage our partnerships with everybody, the city, and different organizations throughout the downtown. We cannot do this alone. We all here, we're on this together. And I think that is more true in order to make things real for all of us, and implement some of the strategies that we want to do. But to make downtown more accessible, we need everybody to participate. So we have a couple of minutes left. I don't see any additional questions, but I wanted to finish by saying that yes, the stabilization plan is available on the website. We just put the URL, on the screen. So please, download the plan. If you still have any comments and you would like to participate even more, please reach out to us. And with that, I'll pass it to Scott. And Scott, if you want to say anything else before we finish the meeting, we have a couple of minutes.
I just wanted to say thank you for hanging in there with us. I know we tried to get many of you on our August 14th meeting. And I'm just wondering, did anybody here, did Facebook Live work this time? I know it didn't work 2 weeks ago. So we're trying this redux and we're trying to do it again. Did any of you get a text about whether it worked on the other side?
We were getting some questions from Facebook Live, so I'm assuming that means it did work. So
awesome! I'm so glad to hear it. And hey, please join us. We're back on schedule now. We just accepted that we're going to have to do virtual public meetings. We know that you've missed us too. So you can schedule now the second Friday of each month. Our next public meeting will be September 11th at 8:15 a.m. We're going to be doing our council candidate forum. We have 2 contested city council seats in the upcoming 2020 election in November. District 6 in Willow Glen, the incumbent Deb Davis and Jake Tonkel. And then in District 4, the incumbent Lund Depp and David Cohen. So we'll be having a double header candidate forum at our next public meeting in September. In October, we'll be having our annual meeting and having our committees report out to you. And please keep in touch with us and contact any of us directly if you're trying to figure out how you can get more involved with us. And thank you very much for participating.